Lenin died. Trotsky wanted the country to go one way. Stalin came in, and eventually Stalin was able to take over, and Trotsky was kicked out of the party, which is basically what communism has done to its people down through time. You work hard for the Communist Party, and the reward is you get booted out of the party, oftentimes executed, lined up before a firing squad, or put in prison, or deposed in one way or another. And this is communism for you. All right, now, I often have said that I don't have much to say about art, but I do want to talk about it here. There was a new type of art that took over, art that attempted to depict the subconscious. In other words, it was based a lot on Sigmund Freud, probing the subconscious, and these artists would try to depict dreams, visions, nightmares. Your book refers to them as, or new visions. And it also seemed to be purposeless. In fact, there's a Dadaism, the Dada movement, said that life has no beginning or end, and the acts of life is just a complete idiocy. Life, like everything else in life, Dada is useless. And again, part of this was due to what they thought was the insanity of life. I mean, a big, big war had happened, followed by a big, big depression. And also something I must mention too is, in addition to the big war, one of the biggest plagues that's hit the world in modern times occurred right as the war was ending, the great influenza outbreak of 1918. Your book doesn't seem to mention it. I've had people do a paper on it, but the plague of 1918 carried away more people than did the war, including a great uncle of mine, my grandmother's brother, who survived the war, only to die of the influenza outbreak of 1918. The King of Spain died from influenza. Woodrow Wilson caught it, but he recovered. Several people, it was a big plague that appeared, affected almost everyone in one way or another, and then just within a few months it was gone. Mysterious, almost came on. Surrealism, that's the word I wanted to use. Yeah, surreal was the art form that, among other things, attempted to depict the subconscious, again based a lot on Sigmund Freud. It wasn't just to try to cope with the horrors of war, but to try to get mankind to tap his unconscious memory, and because after all, Sigmund Freud had taught us that it's our subconscious or unconscious that does a lot to determine the way we act. All right. Now, something else I know that's going to be on the test, and again, I feel like I owe those of you who are here a favor. If it's not on your test, it'll be on the other. The United States did not join the League of Nations, and also there was the Geneva Convention. The United States did not join it. The Treaty of Versailles, which I mentioned earlier, the United States never ratified it. Part of it was Wilson's fault. Wilson was unwilling to compromise. Woodrow Wilson is the only president who's had a PhD. The only president who perhaps towered intellectually above his fellows. But he had a few problems. Number one, he had a feeling of low self-image, and he felt like he had to achieve. He was the son of a Southern preacher, and his father, under being a preacher's son, he was always under judgment and condemnation, and he felt power through achievement to try to make up for his feeling of inferiority otherwise. And he had a plan that might have brought about world peace, prevented a war, but folk, it was like he was the gnat hitting the freight train. He didn't slow the freight train down one bit. He splattered. The United States underwent some extreme isolation, and I always say this at this point, so I'm going to say it now. Why did the United States want to isolate? So, well, what are the reasons why? We just fought a big war. We don't want to fight another one. We had 50,000 of our young boys die overseas. But there's another reason. It is known that in time of war, people become extremely religious. Hey, I saw this myself. The big attack on the Trade Center occurred on Tuesday. On Wednesday, all the churches in the country were packed out like it was Easter Sunday. Where are they now? But in time of war, people become extreme, and it's been said that there is no atheist on the battlefield. When a commanding officer says there's an enemy folk I want you to engage, the chaplain becomes the most important man on the team. Everybody gets religion in a hurry, and back home the people become religion and they start reading. They began to believe that Bible prophecy was being fulfilled. After all, there had never been a war as bad as this one, followed by a great plague, the influenza outbreak, and they believed this was the end. This was the end time. And then they started reading about that in the end time there'd be a man who'd make a covenant. And they said, oops, no, we don't want to get involved in a covenant. And folk, I think this explains why more than anything. Now, you won't read this in an ordinary history book. But the Senate would not ratify the covenants, the Geneva Convention, the Treaty of Versailles, the League of Nations. Our Senate would not ratify it, and Wilson went to an early grave trying to fight to get us to ratify it. And today, the people condemn our senators, say if they had only ratified these treaties, but I don't think they made any difference in the long run. The world still had to fight another big, big war, and then still had to go through and fight a whole bunch of smaller wars. And we're always on the brink of war. Every time we turn on the news or listen to the radio, we're always on the brink. Mankind just simply seems to not be able to find a struggle for peace. All right. Come Wednesday, the first part, we'll begin chapter 24 about the rebellions against colonialism. Middle East, America, Latin America, Asia, not America, but the Middle East, Latin America, and Asia. 1919, at 20 years from 1919 to 1939. And then we'll take the test the last part of the period. Anybody have any questions? Yes?
Is this lecture going to be on the test or no?
This one, definitely yes.
Okay.
Because that's what I've been telling you all, period. Again, what I did, I made up 62 questions. You get 31, the other guys get 30. So what I told you be on the test, take it kind of with a grain of salt. It is on one of the two tests. I simply took my 62 questions, divided into two, gave you 31, and again, I think I've explained to you adequately why I've done that. Yeah. You'll be taking the test first, and I don't know if any of you know any of them or not, I don't care. You won't be seeing the same questions they are anyway. All right, anybody else? Okay, I'll see you on Wednesday.